So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Friends, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Apologies, we're a small bit late. I am going to also apologise. I'm a bit under the weather at the moment. So if I fall asleep on the podcast, it's nothing to do with what Paddy's saying or your engagement. It's because I'm heavily dosed on some drugs at the moment to try and stave off this cold that I've got going. But anyway, this cold isn't going to keep me down, and we've got Wolves tomorrow night, yes, the 4th. It's the 3rd of January already, the 4th of January, tomorrow night. And I'm really looking forward to it, Paddy. How about you?
Well, I am now after Sunday, that's for sure. Yeah, we're in good form. We're in good fettle. Just hoping that the injuries that we sustained at the weekend aren't too bad. Hope that we can see Douglas Luiz back, and it is only a dead leg and he can get over it in a few days. Big worry is probably John McGinn, but who knows, Matty Cash might fill in that position. So we've plenty of guys capable of stepping up. I'm not expecting an easy game by any means. They always put it up to us no matter what. So yeah, it's great to be looking forward to games for a change. So long may that continue, and long may this good run that we're on continue.
Absolutely. And I think, look, I did a podcast with Talking Wolves, with Dave and Talking Wolves, and we had actually a good conversation about Aston Villa, about how the season has gone, and he's a great guy. If you guys haven't seen it yet, you can find it in Talking Wolves. But he does talk a small, he does talk a small bit about the Wolves setup in it, and he gives a preamble beforehand. But they are obviously in the same kind of a situation as us. New manager, albeit they haven't had enough time to as much time as we have had to implement the Unai Emery's tactics and his formations and so on. Obviously, Unai's gotten a song out of this team, but they'll be hoping that Lopetegui will too. But what I'm kind of getting at here is two really successful Spanish managers coming to the Premier League to try and make a name for themselves in the Premier League. I can see this one being a bit of a barn belter at the weekend, Paddy. And the reason I can see that is that these guys know each other inside out. These guys should know each other inside out. Both of them have coached in the main in Spain for the majority of their careers.
They've even coached against each other this season.
That's what I was just about to say. Exactly. Yeah, this season they've even coached against each other. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of metastasizes, I suppose, when over the course of the 90 minutes. Do the guys kind of use the tried and tested methods they've used against each other beforehand, or will there be aces up people's sleeves? So it's going to be an interesting one, I think, for sure. And specifically with the injuries, as you mentioned, that Aston Villa have. Let's talk about those injuries, Paddy. Excuse me. Let's talk about those injuries. And while you do, I'll try not to die here. But obviously midfield is going to be a bit threadbare. Did we ever find out what happened to Leander Dendoncker? And was he injured? And is that why he didn't make the bench the last day?
Well, the rumour was he was ill, and that's why he wasn't on the bench on Sunday. So hopefully he's recovered from that. We didn't hear anything definitive there, but you just got to presume that was the case because there was no mention and no talk of an injury. But look, we've a decent squad there. We've enough lads to come in and do a job. I suppose the main concern is that double pivot is working so well to take Douglas Luiz out of it with a dead leg. I think he might be risked, bearing in mind that we don't play again. Well, he doesn't have to play at the weekend.
9 days.
You would hope so. It's 9 or 10 days before we have to play again. So if he's carrying a dead leg, and dead legs are hard to play with, so it would be interesting to see what will happen come 7 o'clock tomorrow when the team is announced, because I think a lot of our hopes and prayers hinges on having that same fluidity in midfield that we've had with those two guys. They've just been immense, and I think after the weekend the whole world has set up and looked at what Boubacar Kamara is, and everybody's a little bit jealous.
I think so too. And like one thing I liked about what Unai Emery did at the weekend was he did something out of the box. Brought Cash on at that right wide midfielder position. Took when McGinn had to come off. Like that's an interesting one for me because that's potentially that. Well, actually, I don't say potentially. I think that's who's going to start. There's no way I can see John McGinn play. No way. When you pull a hammer like that, when it goes,
Not when it's a
like
hamstring.
we all know when it goes ping, it goes ping, and you can't play. He won't be playing against Wolves. I think Matty Cash steps in that position there now. I think potentially like the person who's going to play alongside Kamara is the open book for me, and I'm going to be honest. I'm like Callum Chambers and all his arms. I'm not sure that we can look at Callum Chambers play midfield for 90 minutes. I know. Look, don't get me wrong. I don't want people to think I'm down on him this season or whatever, because I have been quite critical of him at centre half as well. I think it's been a season of transition for him too. But like he's very handsy in the middle of midfield, and maybe that's going to be okay when you're playing against a more robust midfield. But these guys are going to likely have somebody like João Moutinho inside there. Maybe Podence comes inside, maybe cuts inside or whatever like that. And look, Chambers could end up being brilliant, and he could end up doing a fantastic job in there. But I think if they've got somebody else, a more natural midfielder that comes in there and stands inside there, I think he's who's going to be played, and that's why I think Dendoncker hopefully will be right for this game. Like when we look at it, he's not marked as missing from the point of view of injury or anything like that on any of the physio room. He's not marked there on who scored. I haven't checked anything else there apart from that. But so if he is fit, I think that's who comes in there, and I think Cash plays that right wide midfielder. And I mean, I'm excited to see Matt Cash play there because I'm still on the hunt for Matty Cash winning a penalty by driving into the box. It's one of my biggest criticisms of him. I think he could win a ball of penalties if he backed himself to drive with the ball into the box. And I think as a right back, he doesn't do that in case he gets dispossessed. He leaves everything wide open. Whereas now, if you're going to play him that wide midfielder, I still think after 2.5 years of him being at the club, I think he could win. I think if he starts there this weekend, I'm going to back him to win a penalty if there even is such a market.
Yeah, I'd go the opposite and hope that Matty Cash plays at right back and play Ashley Young in that position. That's just my opinion. I'd like to see what he has in the tank to play that position, because that's obviously his natural position. Neil, somebody has asked there, any chance of them hats coming on sale again? Funny you should ask that question today.
Funny you should ask that question as well, because these hats are on sale. We have a very limited number of hats just at the moment. I've got another few on back order as well. The hats are on sale at the moment. They're on sale on our website if you are looking to purchase them. I will admit, anybody outside of Ireland, they're available to be shipped anywhere around the world. Obviously, shipping rates do apply. So I do like the shipping rates will change based on Post, our Irish shipper, and their rates as well. So don't shoot the messenger with regards to shipping rates, because if there's anybody here who works in on Post, apologies in advance, but we're very expensive to post anything here in Ireland at the moment. It's really expensive, and like my jaw hit the floor. So but listen, buy away. They're on sale. And there's also t-shirts on sale there as well, if you guys want to see. There are t-shirts on sale. They've got an embroidered for the Love of Paul McGrath crest on them as well. And they're for sale on the website as well. So I didn't want to go hawking them on the 3rd of January when everybody's stony broke after Christmas. But they're there. They're available all year round. You guys can go and you can look at them. And if they do tickle or wet your whistle, by all means, you can purchase them and they will be dropped.
And the pint glasses are still there for those in the UK as well.
To those in the UK also. Absolutely. Anyway, back to matters Aston Villa and less matters of commerce. John Steele, Luis did it. Yes, he did do an interview today. Paddy, you, the eagle-eyed Paddy, mentioned something to me just before the podcast. The Wolves press conference was done after the Spurs game in the Spurs media room. And why should Paddy know that? Because Paddy has pictures of him sitting in that very said media room as well. So talk to me about that, Paddy.
Yeah, I just spotted in the interview that the advertising behind them was all Spurs sponsors. So that's what came into my head. Plus, it was only 3.5 minutes as opposed to the usual 10 or 11, 12 minutes that we normally get on a. Now, I know there could be a lot of mind games with this too, in that he spoke about it there where he couldn't talk about how many people were injured or whatever, and he chose to do that then, as opposed to showing his hand for what he has tomorrow night. So if that's the case, that's clever too. But I just thought it very strange to see that Spurs backdrop when Villa released that today, and of course the length of time the questioning was there was only less than 4 minutes. So yeah, it's an interesting one, but I'm probably reading too much into it. But that's what my little Villa supporting brain does. It reads into everything.
I know. I think it was just matters probably logistical. To be honest with you, you travel on from Spurs, probably on the evening on Sunday, recovery day. I would imagine that probably they could have been something new. Unai Emery said, "Listen, look, let's just get it out of the way." At the end of the day, his English is fine. But if you're going to expect a 14-minute interview from him twice a week in a situation, or 3 times a week, even in a situation like this, you're probably not going to get it. He doesn't want to be in those situations, and I fully back him with regards to that. So the 3.5 minutes was okay for me. He couldn't say much directly after the game. It's a quick turnaround for to get him into the recovery sessions with the boys the next day. Small bit of game planning today, and then the game is tomorrow. So it's a quick turnaround there as well. And it's going to be an interesting one to see what happens from that point of view. And I think that Unai Emery is definitely, I think he'd give or take media stuff at the moment as well, and why wouldn't he? Specifically the English media, considering the kicking they gave him over his pronunciation. So 3.5 minutes is absolutely fine for me. Paddy, let's talk a little bit about Wolves. Last time I'm right in saying last time you were at Wolves, we were 2-0 up and we ended up losing 3-2 in an 8-minute or 10-minute salvo. I think it was one of the first games you were at back after lockdown, and it was a devastating one. It was one I remember that was just not nice for anybody, and Ruben Neves clunked.
And it was the first of the 5 in a row for Dean Smith, which eventually led to the trapdoor. So that's it wasn't a pretty day, to be honest. Considering with 82 minutes on the clock, we were absolutely coasting, and managed to lose the game 3-2, which was horrific on the day. I'll never forget it. And we owe these guys a bit of a pasting, and the way we're playing, I think there's never been a better time. But it'll be interesting to see how they line up tomorrow, because I reckon they will go a little bit more defensively, because he needs points on the board as well. He needs to just claw his way out of that bottom 3. And with everything getting spanked tonight as well, and I predict Mr. Lampard heading for the trapdoor very, very soon if that continues. So look, Wolves are in a tough position. They need points on the board, and I think they'd snap your hand off for a point tomorrow.
Oh, I think so too. I think that and you know what, I'm not going to say I'd be happy with a point, but I wouldn't be disappointed if we came out of there with a point tomorrow. Like these quick turnaround games, they create an air of unpredictability, specifically when we've got injuries. Like 2/3 of our midfield, I know we play 4 midfield, but realistically, I don't usually classify Buendia as a midfielder, if you know what I mean. Because he's given more of a license to, although he has been pretty decent at tracking back, and he's given more of a license to create and get into the box and stuff like that. But of our 3 statutory kind of midfielders, I would call them in there, we're going to be potentially missing 2 of them. So from that point of view, I would be kind of looking at this and going, let's not lose game. And that's okay if we draw all our games from here on in for the rest of the season. Then I'll be concerned. But when we like playing against Wolves and a quick turnaround, I'd be okay with a point. Obviously, I want to win, and I think we will be going for the win. But Villa rarely win 2 games in a row. I know we did it under Unai already, but we're not a team that strings massive amounts of wins together, albeit we did in the Championship, not in the Premier League. So that's a habit that needs to be learned, and hopefully we can learn it again tomorrow night. But this Wolves team has a bit about it, even though they're like the guy they brought in there, what's his name, Nunes, midfield. I like the look of him, even though he hasn't really hit the heights. Liverpool are talking about purchasing him. Pudence's in there. I'd imagine they're going to pay what's his name, Huang, is it, on the right hand side? I would say it's probably going to be Adama Traore there. and then they're probably going to play the shithouse himself, Diego Costa, up
Diego
front.
Costa. Yeah.
You know, I think Diego Costa, our boys are really going to have to front up to him, albeit he's not the Diego Costa of old. But the two boys and Mings will probably relish that fight. But he doesn't need to get into too much of a fight with him because Diego Costa has eaten people's lunch, for a living in the Premier League.
He's the illogical fear tomorrow. We don't know what we're going to get from him. He'll be putting himself about. I'm going to shoot myself in the foot here saying it, but in reality, I think he's probably over the hill at this stage. But he's still capable of getting goals. So we'll wait and see what he delivers tomorrow. But I still don't think they're gelling enough to cause us too many problems. And I think we should have enough to go and beat them. And I'm hoping we go and beat them well because, I think after the weekend we're on a roll. I think this is moving month for us. I think the row of games we have gives us a huge opportunity to push ourselves well clear of all of those below us who are very worried about their future. And coming into February, we could be easily in the top half of the table. So it's a good opportunity. Obviously, he's going to spend money too. He's going to bring in people. So it's a very, very interesting month for the club. Plus, I think there's a good possibility we get a few wins on the board.
Yeah, Crystal Palace play tomorrow as well. I can't remember who they play off the top of my head, but if they don't win and we win tomorrow, we leapfrog Crystal Palace, and that brings us. We leapfrog Crystal Palace into the 11th position, and albeit we would have a game in hand on them and Chelsea, we would only be 1 point behind Chelsea as well. So that's something I suppose to play for tomorrow. And look, as I say, I would love us to win tomorrow, and I hope we do win tomorrow. But it's not. It wouldn't be doom and gloom for me tomorrow if it was like a 1-1 draw and we played well.
Palace are at home to Spurs, which won't be easy either.
There you go. Palace won't be at home to Spurs. Palace at home to Spurs won't be easy. Is right. Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure Spurs will want to get back up on the horse again. They're not. They're not giving up on Champions League positions, and why would they, consider only 2 points behind, albeit they have a game in hand over Newcastle, Manchester United have a game in hand over them, and they have a game in hand over Newcastle, who are only 5 points behind as well. So Newcastle and Arsenal playing out, I think it's still a 0-0 draw at the moment in that game. It's still a 0-0 draw there. That would a win for Spurs would bring them within 2 points of Newcastle in third place with a game in hand. So there's quite a lot for Spurs to play for there, and we really put a monkey wrench in their game plan, I think, for the rest of the season. And it's interesting just to talk about Spurs for 2 seconds, albeit being on a Wolverhampton Wanderers podcast. I think it's statistically the best start of a season Spurs have ever had. And yet it seems to be doom and gloom down White Hart Lane, and they don't know what way they're going, and they don't know what they're left from the right at the moment, which, look, we let them worry about that, but I think that is strange, and it just probably goes to show that the lofty ambitions they have, yet we went out and we beat them 2-0. So, well, and I know people are saying there in the comments as well that this is a must-win game. Oh, absolutely. I want us to win. I think we're good enough to win, but I wouldn't be pressing the panic button if we draw tomorrow, from the simple fact that stringing 9 losses together as well is important for us, because like last year and the year before, we didn't draw enough games, and like people laud Brighton over the last few years, they became difficult to beat, whether it be at home or away, and they racked up an awful lot of draws. Brentford in 9th position at the moment obviously did a job on Liverpool last night. They have 8 draws already this season, so drawing games can help as well. Newcastle also having 8 draws, albeit they've only lost 1 game too. So not losing games is a habit, and with us having lost 8 games already, I think that's something that we need to strive to do, is not lose games and keep ratcheting up points as we go through the league, albeit I want 3 points tomorrow. Paddy, do you think that he changes anything up top? Do you think maybe Danny Ings comes in? There was rumours that Danny Ings was pretty much been told he's on the stoop at the moment. He's been told, listen, if an opportunity comes up for you, why don't you take it and why don't you leave?
Well, that's what we're being told. He was on the bench, so I don't envisage Danny Ings going anywhere until we replace him with a striker, because I'm led to believe that Cameron Archer will leave the club on loan for in the next couple of days, which is no harm either, because Emery has had a good look at him over the last 6 weeks and has obviously decided it'd be better to get him game time elsewhere. I do believe he's going to push the boat out on a striker, and that will ultimately mean that Danny Ings will probably go out. But yeah, we've just got to be careful though that we're not left tight in that department. Bailey probably, I thought he had one of his poor games. He drifted in and out of it at the weekend. So
Yeah.
if Danny Ings is still in the plans, I wouldn't have any problem with him switching that up and bringing him in for Bailey. Watkins had a great game, in fairness to him. He didn't.
Headphones are broken, Paddy.
Didn't score any goals or anything like that, but like
I think my headphones are broken.
He worked very hard. Yeah, I've never questioned his work rate. I just questioned his decision making and his finishing. So he had a good game, and I don't see him being dropped for Danny Ings definitely. So, yeah, I think we'll get a lot of questions answered tomorrow night with this team sheet and see how it goes.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to team sheet tantrum tomorrow, guys. I was just opening up YouTube to see, when have I got the team sheet tantrum slated in for 10 tomorrow? 7. It is, what Paddy said there. I can't even see it here in the view that I'm looking at. 10 to 7.
8 o'clock kickoff, so 10 to 7.
8 o'clock, 10 to 7, and we will be back with a post-match review afterwards. I do have one or two questions for you, Paddy. With the injuries tomorrow, do you think that there's anybody that maybe do you think we see Arjen Roike get into the match day squad? Obviously, he's somebody that Unai Emery utilized. Didn't even just have him around the squad during the period of time we had off. He actually utilized himself in Caden Young. Could we see surprise there? Maybe it might be the game for him. I don't know. It would be an interesting one for me.
Yeah, well, given that we could possibly have McGinn and possibly Louise out, I would imagine he will be the next one to come in on the periphery there. So, and if he comes in, he starts. For me, he could very well start in that position beside Kamara. So it'll be an interesting one. But as John Steele said earlier on, Louise was rolled out for an interview. The cynic in me calls that mind games too, and wonders what we'll see tomorrow. But look, we'll wait and see what happens at 10 to 7 tomorrow. But I'm still very, very confident regardless of who's fit. And
also, lest we forget, we didn't mention them at all. We mentioned playing Callum Chambers in there, and we've mentioned playing Arjen Roike. There's a certain Mr. Sanson and a certain Mr. Marvelous Nakamba still around the squad as well. So I would say maybe Sanson being on the bench in recent times, obviously in the last game, I would say he might be somebody that might come in there maybe on the right-hand side, or maybe he just slots in alongside Boubacar Kamara. Who knows? And we might get a sighting of the UFO that is the unidentified footballing object of Morgan Sanson might get a sighting for tomorrow. And yes, I did come up with that, and I am blaming the pseudoephedrine that's flowing through my veins at the moment for that absolutely horrible pun that I just made about Morgan Sanson there. But look, there is still options, even if the injuries are there. If Dendoncker can't go, if Douglas Luiz, if McGinn can't go, or whatever the case is, there are options there, albeit that, maybe those two people that we just mentioned there might have one foot out the door already. They might still be utilised, because while they're contracted and while they're still registered with Aston Villa, it's your job to get up and to go out and to play. And if you're called upon, I would imagine they would do the same. And also look at
Joe, the great position we're in now, that we've got through 23 and a half minutes of this podcast. We've never mentioned it, and nobody in the comments has ever mentioned it, is our goalkeeping situation, because we had a backup goalkeeper who had a great game at the weekend. So nobody is overly worried if Emmy's not ready or not. So that's great in itself.
There's a team sheet tantrum to come tomorrow, Paddy. Ease up on that one. Everyone's holding their powder on that one, I think.
Look, if he's not ready, he's not ready. I'm fine with that. Considering what Robin Olsen did at the weekend, he was very comfortable, very confident looking, commanded his area well, which I had never seen him do before. So
yeah,
I'm okay with it. I think he probably did enough at the weekend that if he chose not to change a winning team, that he stays there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And look, I think Martinez comes back in there, but
I'd pick him, obviously.
If he doesn't, if he does, he does. He doesn't, he doesn't. Guys, we're going to wrap it up at that. Thanks so much, everybody. We've actually had two hats. To some people, People bought hats during that podcast. Thank you so much. I just seen 2 notifications come up in the top right hand corner. I can't see who bought them. I presume, Damien, you were one of them, and somebody else bought a hat. So thank you very much. There's a limited supply of them there. We will be restocking those. It's just with Christmas and stuff like that at the moment. We're just waiting on some back order stuff there with the hats. T-shirts are available all year round. They are being fulfilled by a fulfilling agent, so they are available all year round. But the quality of these are pretty good. I wanted to get them from the same supplier because he's pretty brilliant. So as I said, they're different gravy, and the embroidery on them is absolutely fantastic. So if you do like them, go have a look at them, and we'll get them out to you. I have a rake of them here, and I will be shipping them directly from me myself. So I got to run, guys. I'm actually going to be jumping over onto the Villa View right now. So if anybody wants to continue some Aston Villa conversation, or jumping over with Dan Bardell and the Villa View, and we'll see you over there. We'll see you tomorrow for the Team Sheet Tantrum, 10 minutes to 7 Greenwich Mean Time. We will see you tomorrow. And for anybody else all over the world, you're going to have to use a calculator for that one to see what time that is in your area. But looking forward to this game tomorrow. Thank you so much. Stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.